Welcome back, guys. We are here after the break. Got to see some cool new AR technology as Joker picks up his first MVP of the split in that game. So props to him. He baited a lot of times on the Braum and had a couple of good plays. But the bigger story here is, what is DAMWON going to do after that loss? They're going to start with the sub in the top lane.
And I think this could herald more subs, and you will see
Let them come.
What I believe will be 3 subs at least. I heard support subs, so the Jungle One does slide in 3. We'll see if there is actually a change in AD carry. Remember, Ares is on the roster as well, formerly of BBQ Oliver's last year. Anyways, we see 2 subs, and it will be the 3 subs, so Hoit comes in for Beryl as well. DAMWON Gaming don't like what they see in game number 1, and I think I'm with them when it comes to the gameplay. I like the draft. They had a way to play the game, but it felt like they said, oh, SANDBOX going to do what they always do, play for the early game. Let's draft an early game comp. And then they didn't really know what to do with it. They seemed a bit unordered with their play around that comp, so I don't mind the changes, but I thought the draft overall could have been piloted well. It just wasn't.
It just wasn't as good as straight up as that. The Olaf, the LeBlanc, and the Yorick ended up doing so much more than their counterparts on the enemy team. And of course, it didn't only come down to that, but certainly did feel like SANDBOX from the draft into the game were dominating from there. So we'll see if DAMWON can bring in a new strategy after having some time to discuss it with the new players that are being subbed in. And being on the blue side now means that you always have to have a kind of different strategy as we do come in. Left's fan sign said Cloud Templar ASMR. He's enjoying that cast over there.
But on the English side, we only got the Papa ASMR. And I saw there was a Nuguri fan on the right as well. The Nuguri fan is going to be super hyped to see him into the lineup. Remember that DAMWON Gaming on blue side have Punch in the lineup, so we know he is that Lee Sin god so far this season, but it's one of those scenarios where they bring in Nuguri, who usually gets a lot of top lane bans, but Nuguri's been in and out, so maybe you can drop some of those bans. You bring in Punch, and SANDBOX can choose, do we dangle the Lee Sin and get 2 bonanza picks in the first round, or do we just straight up ban it? On the red side, you have less flexibility, but there still is, on patch 9.4, with a kind of unexplored what should be first pick scenario, the chance to trade Lee Sin for Zoe or other picks that are frequently banned in the first round.
We see Lucian banned out, as he seems to always be first time on the red side, but we'll have Jace banned again.
Yeah, you don't dangle that one against Nuguri. He's really good at that. The Rise is another one that you never want to really live up against Nuguri's ShowMaker version of DAMWON Gaming, but see how much flexibility there is to make a play like that. Sandra already banned on the blue side. See how DAMWON Gaming want to approach. OnFleek bans are what a lot of teams do. Feels like it's too late for a ghost ban, and DAMWON actually on blue side don't want to give away a red side 2-pick Rise. So you're actually going to have to ban Rise on blue. It is a Dove favorite as much as it is a Nuguri and ShowMaker favorite.
You can see he's actually does not look super happy about that one, but we were talking about LeBlanc too. Does end up picking up its 8th win on these 2 mid laners. We'll see if SANDBOX lets it go through here down to the last ban.
LeBlanc, Zoe, both available on a frequent mid lane matchup that's been going more and more towards the Zoe over time. So that's why the LeBlanc first pick might actually be surprising. The Vladimir is left open and they just snatch it. They go for a first pick top laner on the blue side with Nuguri. Outside chance that Nuclear or ShowMaker could be playing it. Heavily expecting this to be a top lane Vladimir. Nuguri was the one who innovated the new rune choice in order to get the most power out of Vladimir early, going for the 5% CDR in the inspiration tree, 10% CDR Transcendence rune in sorcery, and the scaling CDR in the first rune stats to get 25+% for free. But I see you shake your head because you have been lamenting all the Sylas. I'm on the Sylas hype train purely because I've seen it work in other regions, and I feel like the macro around Sylas has been the problem in LCK. So who knows? Maybe we'll see a Sylas win and finally get you some confidence, Valdez, stat on this Sylas pick.
Well, I'm at least happy that they do follow it up with LeBlanc and they don't make the same mistake that DAMWON made. Imagine Vlad and LeBlanc on the same team. Would have been kind of scary. LeBlanc going up to 68% win rate after the win that Dove was able to pilot it to in game number 1 is going to get a second chance here in game 2.
And we've been wondering where our boy Rek'Sai is at. I guess our girl is probably the way to go, but you know how the adage goes.
Yeah, give you a little look there.
Rek'Sai is being hovered by Punch. It's definitely an old pick for him, but didn't fire on this pick last time, and the Lee Sin is gone. So you wonder if he has to just go for a first round Rek'Sai here to try to get the sort of skirmishing advantage that champions like Olaf and Lee Sin usually provide him. Rek'Sai will be very hard to answer in terms of 2v2 early skirmishing. A lot of teams go Nocturne into Rek'Sai, try to avoid her positions of power and then make a global play, and we do just see the Nocturne as the instant answer in the first round. It was probably a very likely ban if they didn't take it.
Does get snatched up here, which means that we have both solo lanes and the junglers taken. Most likely, you know, as we were mentioning, some of these picks can be flexed, but this is most likely we should just see the bottom lanes picked here in the second phase, which doesn't always happen. Tom Kench, definitely very high up on the tier list for the bottom lane, will be taken away.
And you have to think about what the completed duos will be on the DAMWON side, because they'll be locking in bot lane at the same time, and what SANDBOX can get as a advantage, i.e. a support that can't be answered, or an AD carry that can flexibly take any support and win a matchup here. So Alistar, bigger pick for DAMWON than it is for SANDBOX. Thresh is usually the go-to support here, even after the nerfs for Joker, but the Morgana is his more famous pick. So we're seeing a lot of bans targeted to this, like we mentioned. Hoit's Alistar's banned away. Will we see a Morgana or a Thresh ban from DAMWON Gaming? Kind of two different poisons you can take. In fact, it's neither. Will be the Galio ban. The analyst desk on the Korean side pre-series was talking about how Galio's on an 8-match losing streak in the support role, but it does have that great synergy with Nocturne, and these two bans of DAMWON Gaming do shut down OnFleek's playmaking ability come level 6.
Yeah, I do like the idea, but it does leave that support role heavily banned, and if you are on the red side, you'll want to take the best support remaining, which seems to be Braum in this case.
And you go support first because you want to threaten Draven as a last pick here. So as DAMWON Gaming needs to find a duo that doesn't get slammed by Draven. It's not that easy, right? Braum isn't necessarily BFF with the Draven, but can, of course, synergize quite well. So now DAMWON Gaming, what are they going to look for as a blind duo? Kalista Thresh would be a very popular choice, but it's into Nocturne, and we know compositionally Kalista can heavily struggle against Nocturne Dive as the game goes on, and LeBlanc will be there to assist it. So what will the duo be? Xayah Rakan would have for sure been DAMWON Gaming's go-to in the first round. Remember, they were 4-0 on Xayah Rakan as a duo, but the Rakan buffs are not in until patch 9.5. So it's going to be Thresh and Xayah to find the most flexible duo and to lift off through the Nocturne and LeBlanc Dive. Now answering question is on to SANDBOX. Ghost just took down an Ezreal. Will they be locking it in? The answer is yes. 4th Ezreal game, 2-1 on the season so far for Ghost.
Yeah, Ezreal, you know, obviously extremely high tier on 9.4, so they're going to snatch that one up. Hearts out to Austria. I like that one.
Shout out to Austria, almost as good as Australia, but a very similar name. I always see Australia and then update it to Austria, because of course, you know, I've seen AUSTR a lot in my life as an Australian.
Yeah.
End result here, SANDBOX Gaming. I think they have quite a lot of power here. They have dive threat. But I like the Xayah Thresh. Given everything we were talking about, don't want to get slammed by Draven. Need to find something strong. Have to respect the dive. I think DAMWON Gaming approached the second round very intelligently, but they're the ones that have changed 3 pieces. SANDBOX just want to rinse and repeat what they did in game number 1. So we'll see how this new lineup of DAMWON Gaming can come together and see if we finally see the Rek'Sai pop-off we alluded to a week ago.
I mean, you take a look at the top side of the map already, and you have to feel pretty good. Nuguri gets right back onto his Vladimir once again, and ShowMaker hops onto Zoe, which is definitely another one of those playmaking champions for him, and Rek'Sai once again looking for some success, this time around in the hands of Punch.
Fun matchups here. LeBlanc always going to be a highlight this time from Dove. Let's see how Nocturne Sylas as a duo do. Because remember, it's not going to be Sylas with an Olaf so he can just overextend for days. It's going to be much more about respecting the pressure of the enemy team here. Top of the table clash. SANDBOX Gaming just want to close this out 2-0, but DAMWON Gaming looking to fight back.
We go, guys, right back onto the Rift. Game number 1, relatively short, only about 31 minutes, very one-sided after the dominoes started tumbling. We'll see if this game holds a similar path. What are you thinking about these comps here, Papa?
So I've actually got my magnifying glass on a couple of matchups, and the main one for me is this mid lane matchup, as we see happily the pool party Zoe skipping around. Zoe versus LeBlanc, if you ask any Korean mid laner, if you talk to people in solo queue, was a LeBlanc winning matchup at the start of the season. We definitely saw some pop-off LeBlancs, but over time and increasingly around the world, people are seeing that Zoe played at 100% against LeBlanc at 100%, Zoe actually wins that matchup because you have tools to answer. You just have to hit it, right? You need to hit the bubble when LeBlanc comes in. Because it's ShowMaker, who's largely been in really good form against Dove here, I want to see if ShowMaker can actually prove that in a matchup that from time to time has veered left and right. Let's see if the 9.4 Week 7 analysis of Zoe doing well in this matchup actually pans out.
See a couple of first picks. I actually do love this CG here from Riot, as Punch and Hoit going to be hopping onto Rek'Sai and Thresh for the first time.
A lot actually happened at the level 1. SANDBOX got a leash in and didn't get cheesed because they put down a lane brush for the camp coming in from Xayah and Thresh. That lets you know they assumed that Hoit and Nuclear would enter lane with no leash to try to find push priority. Obviously level 2 is so important to any duo lane, but it gives Nuclear so much more lane presence when you can threaten the Blade Caller. Looking at the runes, Nuguri has notably gone for the Klepto in this game. Has gone Kleptomancy. It's a melee matchup, trying to farm it out. So the leash there, I assume, was to allow OnFleek to get to the scuttle fast, and that means that Punch, with no leash, just goes and contests, so ends up being the threatening of the double scuttle, and we should see a confirmation double scuttle, and maybe more as that ward just timed out.
Punch knew about that ward as well, which is kind of interesting that he comes in here and challenges right as it does go down. OnFleek gonna make his way in, but the popcorn chickens will go mainly the way of Punch here. He hits level 3 and says, man, this is my jungle now, and is getting super aggressive. Red buff on blue buff as well means that he can trade quite well in here onto OnFleek, but level 3 is hit. Fear comes in onto Punch, which means that he will back away. Ooh, missed Paddle Star there, but nice dodge on the chains by ShowMaker. A lot happening in that trade between the mid and jungle combos.
Yeah, the mid was what we had zoomed out on, but that's why Punch was so happy to push in, because early LeBlanc can't have that presence onto his Zoe. Have the ability to wave clear and harass much more reliably as the Zoe side of the matchup, so that's why had the priority to do it, and also the increased camps in the early game, and it will be the double scuttle at minimum, a product of this Zoe draft that we've been alluding to.
It's the most annoying thing in the world as a mid laner when you have this giant wave pushing into you, but you have to back away from it just to help your jungler. And it doesn't stop there. You talked about double jungle, but Punch is already once again in his face, not letting up on this one, but here comes Summon, tries to flash away, but now he's just in a world of hurt as he went too far. First blood goes to OnFleek.
And that's the part where DAMWON Gaming make a mistake. They're trying to be bold. They're trying to invade around the Rek'Sai skirmishing advantage, but SANDBOX Gaming, just like the level 1 ward on the brush, have scouted out and have anticipated this level of aggression. It's just not as clean as what we see from some other teams in the league. So it's one of those invading without priority in all your lanes. Yes, Zoe's coming fast, but Summit is coming and Nuguri is not. We know that Nuguri as a player plays for his lane, and that's going to be the cost here for Punch.
You see he flashed to his tunnel, but as he was entering it, the knockup from Summit, he said, nuh-uh. And it turns out that Summit's timing becomes the MVP of that gank and the kill, going the way of the Nocturne.
One of the first times my view of the game was really challenged when I was just a viewer, before I was ever a caster, was when Diamond Prox, was this big invading jungler as Shyvana, and gave the famous interview, I believe it was Diamond, I could be mistaken, but basically said, counter jungling is a team thing, not an individual thing. Don't praise me for it, it's a product of my team. Nuguri was not backing up Punch on that invade, and if their goal was to get Punch into a huge lead, that should be your primary objective, not trying to deny half a minion wave from the enemy top laner. So a better team play from SANDBOX. We already mentioned they didn't change anything when it came to their players on the Rift, and we're seeing some teething problems, and now Nuguri just having some straight-up problems.
Vlad here, only level 5, but does have that sustain with the potion and the Q to come in just to save his life, but great trade already going the way of Summit.
Maker gets the Ignite, gets to just thrift shop it through and get some priority in the mid lane, but yes. It's a very amusing top lane because every time you see Vlad or the Sylas top lane, you're looking for healing reduction, and amusingly, Nuguri nor Summit can go into an Executioner's Calling. So this is a matchup that I think Summit will actually do pretty well on as the laning phase goes on. We'll see what he's maxing. I haven't been able to spot it yet. He could just go back to Kingslayer max, but the amount of cooldown reduction that Vladimir gets does make it hard to out-sustain the poke trades. You only have the all-in trades that can go your way.
I did, well, we are seeing the Rek'Sai take the Ocean Drake right now extremely early, only about a minute after it did spawn. Joker will come in and spot it, but Punch looks like...
He got low. He's down to 80.
That was an interesting sound you made. Very enjoyable as the hook lands here, but of course they're not going to be diving anytime soon. But during the break, I was talking about Sylas and my hate of the champion currently. In the LCK, you know, you were talking about some other regions, but in the LCK, I think it was something like only outside of 2 games. The better team that should have won was mainly dying with the Sylas. I'm going to hold that thought as Nuguri is getting ganked here. The fear into the knockup from the Sylas means that he does get pretty low, but will get away. But generally, it was better teams losing with the Sylas against teams they should have won against, and the only times that the Sylas was actually winning was from better teams against these teams that they should be beating anyway. So I'm still not convinced. Maybe SANDBOX can add another win to the scoreboard here if they do get this win after Summit's good play in the top side.
Punch hasn't revealed himself. That was a visual bug in case you guys are wondering. So was in the brush there, but it's going to be the recalls from the enemy. I understand your point, and I think if you want to just base it on what we've seen in Korea, I'm 100% there with you. And maybe Sylas will be a pick like Camille, where LCK just can't get the value out of it. The other regions do, but I tend to be glass half full. As we can see a teleport here, we'll zoom out on the Sylas talk.
Punch actually gets in there and steals it away without smite, it seems. Nice lantern as well to get him to safety. And the invade does work out.
I think when it comes to Sylas, the fact that we already have players whose Sylas we fear, I'm thinking of Chovy, as the bubble does land. Remember our analysis about this lane.
Oh, man.
If you hit the bubbles, you win the lane matchup. So ShowMaker finding a good moment there. But we already have players who are like, ooh, do you really want to give Chovy Sylas? And I think some people will say, oh, that's a Chovy thing, but it doesn't take a lot of skill to build Rod of Ages and some CDR and then steal an Alistar ult. You know what I mean? And frontline. But the ability for Sylas in certain scenarios to pop up tells me this is a flexible champion, and it influences your opponent's draft. You lock in Sylas, and people are saying words like Udyr and Zoe and things that compositionally answer the ultimate, right? Already, you're getting a mind game going. So I have a feeling the Sylas is here to stay and will be a champion that is going to be the cornerstone of the meta without some nerfs. But I agree with you that a lot of Korean teams haven't been able to pull it off in the best light.
Still waiting for it, and certainly once it does get behind, it loses a bunch of its value, but we'll have to wait and see if from ahead, at least in the nice play that it made in this game, it can do something. It does help out in the first blood, but still sustaining some losses in the top lane, actually, about 18 CS down currently on the flat.
See where these comps are going. Vladimir usually heralds an outscale of a comp, but it's dive versus Vladimir in kind of a siege comp, right? So it's kind of very interesting composition where they took Nuguri, a Vladimir power pick, and yes, Nuguri can just straight up win the game, but it's not like it's a dive comp from DAMWON that will hard outscale in the late game. It's a dive Vlad and some good setup around it. So if you can stay ahead of Sylas in the 1v1, then yes, you get the best of both worlds where the 4 members of DAMWON siege up, and the wave clear is not great on the side of SANDBOX. The wrong all in, they lose. But if the Sylas can find a steadying point, then things become more competitive. So we still like what DAMWON is fielding. We love the fact that they're not in a gold disadvantage like they were in game number 1, but feels like this game is still up there to be won 10 minutes in.
They get that nice Ocean Drake to start this off extremely early on in the game means that all the lanes are going to benefit from that extra regen, especially in the mid lane that you were talking about, where the Zoe does seem to be the winning matchup nowadays. but can benefit even more from that regen. As OnFleek still looking for his first paranoia in this game. You can see he was hanging around the mid lane as Dub was trying to bait a fight that eventually didn't work out. But still no paranoia has come in here, and that is kind of worrying when you are running that Nocturne.
And if I think about how SANDBOX would win this game, I think about how they'll have that cheaper 2-item spike onto Ghost, and it's going to be, of course, the Essence Reaver build, so it takes a while to get going for Nuclear. And it's the fact that Zoe's side lane might actually be shut down by both LeBlanc and the Sylas, who can build double MR, because, of course, it's against both Vladimir and the Zoe. So there's definitely a mid-game window where the items might just come together better for SANDBOX, and that's where they win. Get a 20-minute Baron again and close the game. Otherwise, not a lot to like around DAMWON, and they also have that Rek'Sai. Hasn't done that much. Has gotten some camps, has gotten 3 camp lead, but has died also. And now we're in that wheelhouse where the paranoia is something that's very difficult for Punch to emulate.
I mean, you can see that OnFleek was looking for that opportunity in the top side, but it is a Vladimir, so even if you do land it, you don't exactly know where the Rek'Sai is. If any kind of counter gank comes into a Vlad that's level 9, and you use that paranoia, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, so they just decide against it. And we will continue to have this passivity for now, as neither team finding much action after the early game.
We saw the runes earlier. It is domination second, so there isn't going to be the sorcery 10% CDR, so it's not 45% CDR Vladimir at level 11, so maybe a little bit lower on the lane abusing. But OnFleek actually looking to stop the dragon stacking here. They've got control bot side of the map. It's just kind of slipped away from the fingers of DAMWON Gaming. OnFleek got the Drake down below 1,000.
The spike comes in. Cloud Drake does go their way with the Mountain Drake up next. Now OnFleek in an awkward spot. They just have to go forward, straight onto the Thresh here, but Aftershock and a stopwatch is going to keep him alive for so long. Already the Nocturne goes down, and Summit going to be baited into this one as well. Should be going down here. Just gets sniped there by ShowMaker, looking for another one on the backside, but will just be the 2 kills going the way of DAMWON.
And Nuguri actually teleports down late because the paranoia locked him out from doing so. But actually, he could have kept the teleport and they got 2 kills bot side. So it's a really big win for DAMWON that I'm using could have been even bigger, because SANDBOX are forced into a rush all in with their paranoia TP advantage, and yet it's turned against them.
Zoe pick, you can see what it's doing in the mid lane, but also just trying to zone out OnFleek, forces him to go straight into a Thresh.
And they get the TP advantage, but think of all the tools that are used here by SANDBOX, and it just ends up being a trade as the fight goes on. Summit ends up dying on this teleport here, so that's the 2 kills to get them back in. 1 trade kill, not worth the teleport. That gets no kill involvement from Nuguri.
Unfortunately, as Summit was going in, the rest of his team kind of backing away as the Nocturne was already going down. So see a bit of the gold differences already in the top lane. The Vladimir 1,000 gold ahead at 13.5 minutes over the Sylas here.
And you can't go Rod of Ages from this far behind in this build against the double AP, so it's kind of priced in to go for the build I know LS likes a lot less, which is the Proto Bell into situational build. I think it's vindicated here, because otherwise you're just really, really losing while the Rod of Ages is put together, so you need something to at least pretend you're going to fight back. But is it going to be too little too late? They're already investing Joker's time to try to end this laning phase, or at least keep some pressure onto Nuguri.
Didn't help out in the first blood, but ends up dominating the lane anyway. That is Nuguri's Vlad here, a scary proposition. They let him have it. They banned out the Lee Sin instead, away from Punch. And so DAMWON said, okay, we'll just pick up Nuguri's Vlad, and thank you very much. So far, it's been looking quite good.
You assume first the question was, do we have a pick to hold it, rather than just can we respond to it? They should not have been surprised to see the Vladimir priority, and it's Nuguri, a player who's performed on it again and again. Smite from Punch actually gets the red, but we're seeing Nocturne brawl with him.
He's trying to get in there, doesn't have much mana, but the fear comes down, but in goes the Rek'Sai ult, but perfectly timed stopwatch as the paddle star from ShowMaker from downtown uses his own flash to make that a 1-for-1.
And those extra tools makes it hard to evaluate, but you definitely feel good as the Rek'Sai. She was looking like lights out in that scenario, but the R actually immuning the damage bought enough time for Zoe to respond and gets that 1-for-1.
A really nice mechanical play there from the side of DAMWON to make the most out of a bad situation. And they'll keep that lead going. They have a 2-0 Zoe now, and it's ShowMaker just dominating Dove in the mid lane too.
And I love little plays like that. Same mechanic as the Alpha Strike, right? Where you just time it right and you immune damage. That's what we see with the Rek'Sai pretty reliably. That's what allows her to get the trade kill that bought so much time, about 3.5 seconds of time between the stasis and that. We're in mid lane, didn't use Nocturne ult, remember?
Yeah, they have a ton of burst damage here too, but the stopwatch comes in and he is able to swipe there on top of him. Okay, in goes Dove again, and Punch has to flash away just to survive. So a nice clap back there from Dove and OnFleek.
And because Rek'Sai never got to extend that lead in the 1v1 when she wanted to invade earlier, now we get to the point where it's the same analysis as Nocturne versus Kalista, Nocturne versus Zoe, right? Zoe skipping away with her portal jump ain't gonna do nothing against the Nocturne dive, so Nocturne finds a way to trade his life for Zoe's every fight. That's advantage, SANDBOX Gaming.
Definitely a feels-good moment for SANDBOX to try to come back in this one, as now Joker's getting really frisky. Gets the knock-up onto the Xayah. Lantern will get him away as well. DAMWON just going for Shelly here.
Kind of bizarre use of the ult from Hoit there. They just ended up drawing a response ult from Joker. They didn't know about the positioning of junglers. We know junglers weren't in response range on either threat. Gonna watch the replay of the top side. Loving the R timing from the Rek'Sai here. So OnFleek, because he's got the lethal tempo, says, let's brawl, I'm ready to go, I got backup. Watch the play here, Dove comes in, would have killed the Rek'Sai. R's through the damage into stasis, and with the actual flash, true flash used by ShowMaker, they need a lot, but Valdez, what doesn't Zoe have now? The flash that she needed to pick up the kill, and that's why the response gun, almost a double, is available for SANDBOX Gaming, so they next level what DAMWON Gaming was trying to do.
It really is a great point. I mean, OnFleek goes from dying. The second he comes back alive, he just runs down the mid lane and says, we are killing the guy that doesn't have flash and no escape. So definitely a great move from them, but now they're struggling to try to take this Mountain Drake away.
Silas walking down.
Will they try to get in range? There it is, but no, the smite not gonna go away, and the two-man play comes in from the side of Hoit. Means that already Nocturne is gonna be going down. And Punch trying to finish him off. It is going to be the double kill going to ShowMaker. So 2 kills and the Mountain Drake go the way of DAMWON Gaming.
And DAMWON Gaming, finding SANDBOX walking up, and speaking of DAMWON Gaming, Nuguri just going to ult to get them away. Both top laners missing, and I think SANDBOX overrate the position they're in. They get no Nocturne Paranoia value. I believe might have been on cooldown, certainly wasn't used. DAMWON Gaming get everything once again. They're going to push up and get the first turret of the game as well.
Should be a huge swing to go to the side of DAMWON after that play, as, well, just a response emo play trying to push them off the turret here alongside with the Proto Belt, but it's not pushing them away. They're going to get that first blood turret. Actually, that's the second turret already that they have taken here. They got bottom one already gone on the map.
They got Drake, blue buff steal, and 2 turrets and 2 kills. They got so much from this play. And you think about where SANDBOX are in the game, remember, it's no Muramana 2-item Ezreal, so he wants to be in the mid lane. That's where Ezreal is strong at this point. The LeBlanc has 1 item, she can burst 1 person, but that's not team fight strength, that's pick strength. So SANDBOX walking out to contest here is pretty bizarre. They get no value out of the power they have right now, and they actually kind of just accept their fate. Blink and you miss it. Valdez, it's a 5,000 gold lead almost for DAMWON Gaming. Kind of gift-wrapped by the side of SANDBOX.
OnFleek, you were talking about the Paranoia. It didn't look like it was available. He had to flash in for that one. You would imagine that he would use Paranoia to just get in range if he had it. So gets too close, doesn't get the smite, gets played and knocked up, so he can't even use any of his abilities and does no damage. And talk about the importance of Mountain Drake. You can see it in the desperation of SANDBOX to try to steal it away.
Definitely the worst early game play we've seen from SANDBOX in multiple series. The fact that they lost that much, and it should have been worse. Nuguri was actually closer to the fight than Silas as a more team fight ready champion as well. This was they should be happy they only lost 5,000 gold. It could have been way more in that play. And now the Rift Herald is there. Now a lot of our points about where the game state is at are going to be thrown off by the extra gold and the extra objectives. Loaded in, DWG Gaming take the 3rd out of turret, And it feels like SANDBOX already backs against the wall.
Doesn't stop there as Shelly trying to get a second charge here, will not be able to, but already ShowMaker with the Banshee Veil on top of Ludens at 20 minutes. That's a really happy Zoe. She's skipping a lot more now after having all of these items, and it's just going to be a menace here in the mid-game.
One win lane, win game is a possibility for Zoe in the LeBlanc matchup, which does confirm our recent analysis about where that matchup is tipping. That is a huge item breakpoint. To have Mercs and Banshee Veil complete here means that she doesn't care about Zoe unless she's heavily overextended in a side lane. And right now, those side lanes, she can just wait for the minion wave to be frozen or slowly push towards the turret, then relieve pressure rather than have a very long lane with her own turret down. Facing on to Nuclear, but doesn't have to use the ult. They get the trade now, and maybe Nocturne can punish it in the next minute or so.
Yeah, Joker happy about that one. Probably looking for a little bit more as Dove sustaining some damage here, just trying to clear out that control ward. We're definitely going to see more of Zoe versus LeBlanc in the response. It felt good, you know, Dove picked up a win and then he gets it again, but then immediately now ShowMaker comes in and proves to everybody just how strong that Zoe can be in this matchup. LeBlanc, I suppose, sometimes a little bit too linear. You have to stay there for, you know, even just 1 second to get your damage trade in, and the Zoe can just throw out some of her own linear skills to shoot you in the face.
But let's go back to the draft with our new information and say, first pick Vladimir for top almost certainly is winning the top lane matchup by a lot of gold with the Kleptomancy. So go for extra winning, right? The Kleptomancy. And then ShowMaker's winning this skill matchup that clearly seems to be trending towards the Zoe. That's some pretty worrying signs for SANDBOX when it comes to their usual style. They are one of our teams that almost always draws for lane strength, unlike Griffin that can take the more greedy scaling approach. And we're not even sure that scaling is going to be paid off in a significant manner. They weren't able to use where Ezreal is strong against Xayah, and now with all the gold that's gone the way of Nuclear and his 550 gold of farm and kill bounty, feels like the Xayah just has straight up more power. So there's actually very little for OnFleek and the members of SANDBOX to pose questions on. It actually has to be things like Joker trading his ult with Nuclears and then calling in the Nocturnes. We're already talking 2-step, 3-step plans to even get even trades.
Poor Joker has to cleanse away from that one. They get that information now, and ShowMaker going to take his own cleanse on top of a Banshee Veil. You're not touching this, Zoe. She, you know, she's going to have her way on the Rift here to essentially do whatever she wants, has a needlessly large rod.
I predict there'll be at least one team fight where you singing Can't Touch This will be better play-by-play than play-by-play in the fight. She's going to be that strong.
It could happen. Could definitely happen here.
How's your singing voice? Is that in your...
You know, it's all right.
All right.
You and I haven't, we haven't done karaoke together just yet. As, well, that does a lot of damage. You can see maybe in the future the Ezreal can do a bit. As, working on the third item now. Towards the Archangels.
I wonder if it's the lights out choice, because it kind of can be either. Nuclear's far enough ahead that you could close out the game with an early IE, or go the Ghost route and go GA and frontline a bit more and try to bait with your ult and also your Guardian Angel. So a lot of options available here for Nuclear. Might even just be a gold back timing thing. He's pushing up, doesn't give too many mundos about Summit, as you can tell. That's magic resist, not armor, onto Summit.
He's got a lot of magic resist to face off against Vlad, but not up against Xayah, obviously. And of course, you know, Vlad Zoe, that is double AP.
Oh, it's the right choice, and yet
yeah.
DAMWON Gaming can make it wrong, right? And that's what happens when you're this far ahead. Your lane assignments are so flexible now.
Yeah.
From a 6,000 gold lead, SANDBOX Gaming. They're trying something, they're rolling all the die.
Okay, well I said he couldn't touch the Zoe. It looks like I might be correct. No, he is going to be shut down there. As only the GA might be going down. Already 2 kills. The way of SANDBOX is they're trying to shut it down, but Summit maybe going a little bit too far here. Nuclear is going to be able to shut him down, and Nuguri, oh boy, here he comes. Should be able to get at least Joker and do a lot more damage. So they do trade a couple back. Will be a 2 for 2 in the end.
2 for 2 at that point in the game with how far behind they were and how the game was slipping away from them is actually good for SANDBOX. And if Kingslayer comes off cooldown, that would actually be an insane heal. Remember, it's AP with Spirit Visage onto the Silas, but doesn't quite get it at the end. This is what you can do. The only thing they can do is press Nocturne ult and group. They will have a TP advantage or a grouping advantage because there's no way for Vladimir to teleport in that scenario. And Nuguri, famous, of course, for being second there. Silas probably a second or two away from living and potentially posing more questions. Nuguri only gets Joker. It certainly could have been worse.
Wasn't a big fan of the Xayah ult usage by Summit that he did steal, as Nuclear easily just able to sidestep in the little nook in the jungle there and avoid all that damage. And after you use that, he had no escape when he was going 1v2. You mentioned it was probably a cooldown issue. Didn't seem like he had the Kingslayer, but maybe he should have saved that for a better position. Does mean he does go down in the end, as he was just looking to zone away the Xayah.
I have an important update. ShowMaker went for the budget GA full-powered IE. He has the Infinity Edge done, and he has the stopwatch. So he is a Nuclear, I should say. So he's really strong at this one. The Xayah is to be feared. And even if they recreate these dives, Xayah is uniquely strong at dealing with things like Nocturne ultimates. So the threat of this Xayah carrying a fight is high, and we already outlined the position that ShowMaker is in. So SANDBOX Gaming need to find another window where they 5v4, because 5v5 ain't gonna work out.
See what they can do here as the push does come in. It looks like they may just go for an avoid, as Summit being zoned out on the bottom side, and LeBlanc is not even here. She's in the top lane just split pushing, and they say, well, we're not going to go for any kind of 5v4 just yet. We'll just take out that outer turret in the top side and avoid all the fights up until then.
DWG Gaming haven't been a team that's been too dive happy, and your suspicion is, with Flame out, Nuguri in, that some of the tight mid to late game shot calling will also be evading this team. That was the big thing that Flame's introduction, if you talk to the players, if you listen to the interviews, all about giving that veteran shot calling ability. Let's watch this matchup, getting the Nocturne.
Hemo Plague means that. Okay, in goes Nocturne, and enough amplified damage goes on top of that Vlad to the point that even he can't survive.
The control ward line actually extends to Cam, so they had no idea which side the map Nocturne is on. And remember that if Nocturne Tether goes onto a Vladimir, it will apply during the pull. There's no way to kite away from that. You have to use the pull at the right time. In that scenario, the Nocturne gets the job done. A nice piggyback gang with no Baron punish from DWG Gaming.
There was a lot of stuff there, just a little bit too far forward from Nuguri. Good positioning by OnFleek, and no flash as well on Nuguri, which is probably communicated to make that gank even easier. And what do you always want to do up against Nuguri? You want to punish his overstaying in some of those side lanes and some of that selfish side laning. Well, they're able to do that here already with a kill and a turret in the bottom lane.
And it's a play style. It's a point where in game number one, maybe SANDBOX can't fight back, but with the members, again, with the nameplates on, this is a scenario where outplaying DWG Gaming on the map is possible, because so frequently, even before Flame wasn't there, we would look at these game states and say that DWG didn't have the macro to close out games like this. They needed to brush up and harness their smart coaching staff in order to belie the fact that they had a lot of talented solo queue members that weren't as on point with the map rotations. So given all that, let's see how many times they can use the TP advantage that the Paranoia causes, or just the piggyback advantage to take down side lane members and drag this game on to maybe just a single team fight they can win.
Mountain Drake, a huge objective here. Unbreakable, gonna have to be used already by Joker, but level 16 for both Nuguri and Dove, pretty big in terms of both of those champions. We'll see if SANDBOX even want to contest here, as the Ezreal ultimate does come through. Backs DWG Gaming off quite a bit here, as in goes OnFleek.
No unique vision. There's a control ward vision on DWG Gaming's forward ward above this spot, and matching control wards on the right. So let's see if it's an honest 5v5, or maybe even a steal.
Can they get in there? Here comes the Rek'Sai. It's going to reset, and in goes OnFleek. He gets it this time. The Hemo Plague is good by Nuguri. Look at all that damage into the backline, but Punch getting low, and Summit looks like maybe he bit off a little bit too much. Just coming in from behind as his team was backing away. Only he will go down, though. Mountain Drake goes the way of SANDBOX, but DAMWON heading immediately to Baron.
And you see how tricky it is to approach a fight, especially with Hemo Plague used so early, and to actually hard engage. Summit's the only frontliner. He goes in and quickly turned on by the enemy. DAMWON trying to double down here and pick up the Baron. They lost out on the Drake. They love a Baron.
Even gonna get the heal here on a punch as
Punch?
just gets
He's dead!
He goes down, but no steal is gonna come in as Ghost, he's beginning to get real strong. You can already see it. Uh-oh. ShowMaker gonna miss on that borrowed flash, but even so, they're out of position for the push in the mid lane.
That means only 4 members have the Baron, and they lose a turret here. So they're trying to make this not the game-ending Baron buff power play that we saw in game number 1. Important to note, though, that SANDBOX can still look to try to take down side laners, and the side laners will always have the Baron if we see an eventual 2v2 between, say, Zoe Rek'Sai as 2 members of SANDBOX or Vladimir Rek'Sai, given how much Nocturne side lane play has dragged this game on from a SANDBOX perspective.
OnFleek trying his very best, picked up Sterix now, is quite tanky. Let's take another look at this play, though.
Nocturne does claim the smite here. I don't actually see if it's engaged. This is always so awkward because Baron relays, just the smite timing is off. The moment that Vlad ults 3 members, there's no way to actually be a backliner, so Summit actually goes too far. With the stolen Rek'Sai ult, no one can walk past. Nuguri, that's impossible. Let's watch here the Ezreal ult, even through the redemption. Let's see how much damage it does. Yeah, it does an extra 500, and then just a cheeky auto attack from the Baron. Takes it down there. So we zoom out. We do see a mid lane turret. Only 1,000 Baron buff power play so far. The gold lead has narrowed since all this play has happened, when it looks like DAMWON Gaming were maybe in a no-lose scenario.
That it has. It is getting pretty interesting. There is still a chance that SANDBOX could come back, but DAMWON now with the Baron buff, looking for a big power play here. They already get that bottom turret on the side of Nuguri.
And you wonder if maybe this is play 1 lane dive. Speaking of dive,
trying to get onto ShowMaker again. That huge amount of damage from the Ezreal means that 2 members immediately go down as Dove also going in for the kill. It's Nuclear and he's all alone. Will go Nuclear as he goes down. Nuguri, the last man remaining. And he's got a playing in a dream. Can he do this actually? OnFleek gonna mess up that spell shield.
How many can Nuguri take down here?
Lee's gonna go on top of him. Second one does come in. A bit of a monk-ass moment, but 5 members do go down on the side of DAMWON as SANDBOX strike back.
It is a monk-ass moment. They were so far ahead with Baron, and they just lost a team fight. I was just about to say, maybe this is where you play 1 lane and dive as DAMWON Gaming, because we already saw you're losing the game when SANDBOX can split you away with the paranoia. Vladimir is in a side lane, and DAMWON Gaming just go up too far when they don't have Vladimir there to dive. This is not the time to walk up when your Vladimir is auto-attacking an inner turret, and they get punished in a pretty embarrassing fashion in this particular all-in.
You get 2 members in there, all alone,
and then you see Nuguri, and you remember, hey, even if he was tanking turret and could recreate most of this play, if he has 4 members with him, 3 other people die, and you just win as DAMWON Gaming. Instead, they play multiple listen to the comms.
Said nice, and then I'm going to go top.
And the coach is actually creating a rumble here. What was that on the Richter scale on the side of SANDBOX? That coach has always had some of the most visceral reactions. They know. They were gifted that one by DAMWON Gaming, and that's quintessential DAMWON Gaming from ahead. When they don't have Flame on the roster, they frequently make mistakes like this, and it's worth noting, they've clearly been giving scrim time to so many members of the roster if they were willing to sub in 3 new players for game number 2.
Yeah, it is just a little bit of disrespect. Even if you are really far ahead with Baron, there's no messing with some of the late game damage of Ezreal and LeBlanc. They're just popping off so much. Ezreal's 4-0-4 with 1,000 gold bounty and 4.5 items. You can't just run straight at them. They're gonna blow you up.
It does feel like Ezreal at this item timing point has just out of nowhere sprung to ultra relevance. Notice double tier is done. He has the Gunblade and Sorcerer's Shoes for just outrageous ult damage. If SANDBOX Gaming get the second Baron buff, I think they close out the game, and DAMWON will be happy there's still 2 minutes till that's on the Rift.
Definitely a lot of the pressure is lying on top of Nuguri, who is that big side carry for them.
Well, wield it as a weapon. No point sheathing Nuguri. Unleash it. That's what they have to do, is they have to play team fights. Here we go.
Oh, big hemoplague here on the side of Summit, but has to wait for that one. Huge Braum ultimate as in goes the Nocturne. But nice damage out of Nuguri. He's still alive. He's going to get a couple of kills here to the side of DAMWON Gaming, as even Summit is going to go down. goes desperately alone, trying to do that damage from behind, but even after the dive and so many ultimates, so much of DAMWON remains.
And SANDBOX Gaming choose to fight against DAMWON, and they find out that DAMWON group is so different to DAMWON when the Nuguri is not around. Nuguri able to live through this. They can kite back, but they're not kiting back to friendly area just yet. Hoit doesn't feel strong enough to chase, and there should be some piggyback escapes, only at the cost of a further Mountain Drake to DAMWON Gaming.
Forcing fights straight into a level 18 Vlad that is this fed. We've seen many times, doesn't seem to work out.
And SANDBOX have picked tools, they have outnumbered tools, but they don't have a champion like Vlad, who can press all his buttons and with multiple AoE spells win a team fight. They think they have their moment to go in, and you see Doug get a Mimic Distortion, right? You think, is this going to be enough? But the answer is no, that's not what they comp for. That's not what they've been gifted to get back into this game. So DWG Gaming finally find a simple place to group around. We're actually seeing hopes and prayers from the fans there. Seeing the full roster. They've needed the full roster to get some of their victories. But DWG Gaming, in simple places where it's very easy macro to say, let's have 5 people park them together and fight, are finding victories. Let's see if SANDBOX can play the map like they did in game number 1 to actually cause an outnumbered scenario, because you know what? Even though they've lost out to a teleport advantage from Paranoia 2 or 3 times, DWG Gaming you could see making the same mistake for a 4th or 5th time, and that's kind of what SANDBOX has to hope for.
It's what a lot of teams in the LCK already have won doing up against DWG Gaming, so I don't mind that. Maybe take a page out of their book, begin to split up the map, maybe send Dove to a side lane or something like that. Has the Ignite, not the teleport, so might be a little bit harder, but...
You know when you have the fed split pusher and solo queue, like your bot lane, your mid lane lost, but top lane's 8-0? And
yes,
the top laner just chooses to keep pushing around while you lose the 4. This is where the 4 teammates have decided, why don't we just walk into the same lane as Nuguri? That'll probably work out pretty well. They need Nuguri there. Follow the leader. Follow Nuguri is what DWG Gaming need to do. Because if they lose another fight in this series because Nuguri's not with them, that's on them.
Summit comes in, steals an ultimate, but already sustained so much as Paranoia just coming in, but the Rek'Sai going a little bit too far here. Punch not quite going to be sniped out as the True Shot Barrage goes the other way, but hanging on a knife's edge was that fight as both junglers trying to play with fire here. Punch nearly losing his GA with the Baron available.
Joker actually has QSS and Cleanse on this Braum in order to walk up and have a cleanse effect. If he chooses to swap over, maybe even a Tiki Baron steal. You can have QSS and also the Summoner change available from the Unsealed Spellbook. A lot of pick CC here. He's trying to ward Baron from behind against Zoe Thresh, so you know there's a lot of reliable ways to stop that Baron check. Speaking of Baron checks, Ghost can do it off cooldown with the Q. They know things are bad, and things are so fast!
It's double mountain, and don't care how much damage the LeBlanc does. You're not going to be able to outsmite there, as way too fast of a Baron. SANDBOX not able to challenge that time around.
You say that confidently, Valdez, but I definitely saw Mimic Distortion steal potentially come out. Mimic Distortion is probably not doing that much less damage than Smite at this point in the game. Punch 1 and 6, but level 16, so I think 900 Smite damage, I want to say. I think it's 1,000 at level 18, if I remember correctly. Not numbers I keep too close an eye on. Eye-opening builds on both 80 carries. There's 6 of them for both, so both of them are super powered. And our read is that DWG Gaming's teamfight comp is easier to execute. You can lift off with a GA as the Xayah, and you have Nuguri, a champion who is better teamfighter than anyone else on the Rift right now. And yet, because of the nameplates, you wonder if SANDBOX can find a way to turn the tables on DWG. With a Baron buff, you would hope the answer is no.
Well, they certainly have a lot of ways to force fights with the Nocturne, LeBlanc, and Ezreal to get in position and do damage, but they have to do it when the Vladimir is not there.
And Vlad's items are great for team fights. Summit's items zone for a while, but not as much oomph with no death cap onto Dove just yet. Nuguri's grouping here, notice he's not sticking the side lane with that Baron buff. They're trying to play one lane. I like this from DAMWON. Not always the right way to go, but given how this series has gone so far, probably the right call.
Oh boy, and Ghost even taking a huge amount of damage there from one panel star. Gotta be really careful. Summon and Dove trying to come from behind and make things interesting here.
Remember, they don't want to fight 5v5 face roll. They want to find a pick. So actually trying to split DAMWON, giving them headaches, and also stopping further minion waves is smarter than trying to smork 5v5.
Kind of like the idea. You know, you got to play guerrilla warfare when you are in this kind of situation.
Shout out to Misfits.
Yeah.
They play guerrilla warfare every game.
I love those guerrilla pictures, man. Make my day every time.
Well, that's a Saturday analysis point. It's Thursday. Is it DAMWON Gaming forcing a third game? Remember, they're on a 6-match win streak. The SANDBOX Gaming is trying to engineer the downfall of.
Looked like that Battlestar kind of went through. That one is okay. Nuguri is not wasting any more time. Ghost just barely survived on the backside. In goes the Nocturne, but immediately blows up. Down goes Vlad, though. Okay, we do take that Vladimir away. Does that mean that SANDBOX have a way to get back into this one? Well, the Silas is going to go down, as does Nocturne, and the dominoes will fall. There are going to be other threats in the lineup here from the side of DAMWON, namely ShowMaker and Nuclear at this point in time. And now it's only up to Ghost and Joker to try to stop them.
Guerrilla warfare is not going to be enough to stop the winning army here. ShowMaker piles on the damage, so does Nuclear, and DAMWON Gaming will force game number 3.
41 minutes, they are able to do it this time around. We'll be going to a game 3 as finally the series we were expecting does come to life here on the backs of DAMWON and Vladimir.
And just those full item builds, short of the guerrilla warfare tactics, were too strong. The tank on the Silas, the mana items that have already been piled on the Xayah, just things couldn't be made equivalent, and we have to remember this began with a Vlad first pick that we knew was top lane because it's Nuguri, and then also the Zoe, and the answering picks in terms of 1v1 matchups couldn't be wielded enough on the side of SANDBOX. Preseason and in Challengers, remember this is of course a rematch of a series that happened a couple of times in Challengers Korea, summer 2018, that just the pure talent on the side of DAMWON honestly will be why you would have tipped them to beat SANDBOX Gaming before 2019 kicked off. It ended up being about the talent and the laning matchups, and it's going to be something where we do expect these players to maintain their spots for DAMWON. SANDBOX Gaming cannot afford to give pretty comfortable laning matchups. The LeBlanc didn't work, and the Silas, it's another Siluse in game number 2.
Another one comes in. I'm still not impressed.
You got your blood pressure medication. You can take it after the cameras go off. You'll be fine. It'll pick up a victory one day.
Can we just not have it picked that early on?
We will have it picked
Can we just have something else?
No, we will have it.
I mean, okay. Well, the Vlad does go the way of Nuguri, and that was the nail in the coffin right from there, it felt like, as we do have that game tied up, and we will have a game 3, which will make things kind of interesting, as once again, SANDBOX will be on the red side. And I would have to imagine that Vlad, as he was in game number 1, will be banned out in game 3.
But it's red side on Nuguri. He can still find something. I'm ready for something crazy. The Nuguri Quinn is the one I am the most excited about. Nuguri did a boatload of damage, so did Ezreal, but you just knew with how the champions stacked up that if it was Vladimir doing 30k damage, that Vladimir team was going to win. They tried hard to make mistakes. They weren't perfect in their execution. You notice some peaks and valleys, even though they had a comp that should have been able to close out the game. It extends to 41 minutes, but DAMWON Gaming did enough good things to force that game 3.
Yeah. A lot of the games where the Vlads do lose in the top lane are up against really oppressive laners like Jace. Turns out that Silas is not one of those laner guys, and hopefully we see something new in game number 3. So we are going to take a little bit of a break before we do get into that one, but a kind of rare Valdez treat. A game 3 will come from SANDBOX versus DWG Gaming.